In case you were wondering, today is yesterday. So if you're watching this video today, it's actually yesterday. All right, folks, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get started doing something, and I really don't know what, honestly. It's a little overwhelming. Sometimes I talk about how you really need to keep up with things. There's nothing you can do. I mean, we all, even my landscape, I can show you pictures of my landscape with tall weeds, but it takes work. It takes work to get it back under control. So let's just get to work and see what happens. All right, folks, I've got a little bit of progress to show you, and honestly, with a job like this, the progress usually starts slow and then it kind of gets exponentially faster as you kind of get a grip on things. Usually I'll end up going through and working from big stuff down to small stuff. So the first thing I did was I took my nursery spade here, and if you don't have one of these and you're in the trade, highly recommended tool. There's a company called A.M. Leonard that sells these, and W.W. Manufacturing may as well. I'll see if I can find a link and put it in the description. But it's all steel. You want one with all steel nursery spade, and they make them with, you see how long the part that digs there? They make them with a longer part that digs and a shorter part that digs. And I find when I'm ripping out shrubs, I like the one with the longer part because you can get under there and pop them out really nicely. But the shorter one is very handy when you're transplanting things and you need to dig around them. So I recommend having one of each. I'd probably get the long one before I got the short one because you'll use this much more often. And the other thing you want to do is there's a tool called a handy file, which is just a file with a built-in handle. It's usually under 10 bucks. It's double cut on one side, which is more aggressive, and single cut on the other, which is less aggressive. So you get your handy file and you keep it on your truck or in your pocket, and the second you start nicking that blade or that gets dull, you touch it up. You touch it up often, so it's always, you don't want it to be razor sharp, you just want it to be sharp without dings, so it's minimal work for you. So the first thing I did was go through, and let me show you this. This is kind of funny. And I dug out all these saplings that were growing in the landscape. So just take a look at this. And maybe this was just my background in the industry, but the first job I had after school, I worked with somebody who was in the trade for a while. And I took out my pruning shears and I tried to cut back a weed because it was the easier way to do it. And they were like, no, you got to get the roots or else the weed keeps growing. So as long as I've done this, I have always, when I've got a weed, I try to get the roots. There have been the occasional days where I will maybe at the end of the day forget to get the roots. But for the most part, I get the roots. And I guess sometimes, when you make assumptions, you make a something out of yourself. But I thought everybody knew that. And, what you're looking at here is just, I don't know how many years, but I mean, all these little saplings, all it would have taken was a good pull, the first time it came up, probably 7 or 8 years ago, if I had to guess, anything from 3 to 7 years ago, or even to use this guy here, which is this is called a Lesche digging tool, but it's a soil knife. You use this to get under there and pop them out. But when you see weeds, get the roots. And for these weeds, I used my digging spade. They were so bad. But normally in a landscape, try to use your soil knife. I've got my pruners here, and I've got my soil knife. Felco pruners, I've had these since 1992, and I've got my soil knife, which I've had for a while as well. Both of these tools, they're like snap-on tools. You'll never need a new one. You'll need to sharpen this one you may need to get a new spring. You may need to get a new spring for a Felco pruner. The spring can wear out. You can dull the blade, you can sharpen it by hand, or you can replace it. But I consider both of these tools and that tool to be like the snap-on of nursery tools, because once you buy it, it's never going to break, and you must have really been doing something stupid if it does break. So there's that. Once I got all the big stuff out, I went after this clump of Fothergilla, and I may end up taking some more out, but I wanted to get everything back and away from the sidewalk, so that's back and away. I did get rid of the barberry that was here as well. That's sitting over there somewhere. I'm not taking any of this junk home today, so I'm trying to put it off to the side where no one's going to trip on it over Halloween. And then I did try to prune a few of the bigger branches just so people can get to the front door okay. And when I was pruning, I took this one big branch off the back of this holly. And I just want you to see, you see all this white stuff? This is called a scale. There are sprays for it, but scale likes to be where it's damp and possibly shady. I Google scale, learn more about it. But again, when I'm selectively pruning, if I'm hand pruning these shrubs, so scale doesn't actually kill the shrub, by the way. It just you know, it gives off the sap, which then turns this funky color, and it's kind of parasitic. It sucks the energy, it sucks the juice out of the plant, but the plant will stay alive. But in the back, where it was against the house, this is the branch that was literally right against the house, and you see there's more scale down there, and that's actually probably just from the juices coming off the plant, and that's what that messes on the house. But long story short, selective pruning, I never see scale. So, you know, it's up to you. It really is, because initially selective pruning takes more work, and you have to know what you're doing, or just be willing to accept you may make mistakes and have to wait for the shrub to grow out. But this is scale. Another thing I never see when I'm selective pruning. All right, so we've got you folks on worm cam right now. But again, I'm just using my Lesche digging tool, soil knife. So whenever you see weeds, you know, and there's certain weeds like dandelions, and another one is thistle, but if you see them, you really want to do your best to get the roots, because otherwise they're just going to keep coming back. So over here, for years, you know, it's been the quick and dirty. Maybe they took the weed whacker and hit the roots. Maybe they just yanked it and left it. I don't know, but try to get in there, get the knife underneath, rock it back, and get the roots. Are you in focus there? And you aren't going to get them all the time. That's just a fact of life. But if you do it this way, you're fighting the good fight. And in time, hopefully you'll have less. You'll have less, you know, less weeds coming back. See all those babies. And it's just like, I guess I look at it as the sum of the year. And I know I'm never going to get all the weeds one year, but if there can be less weeds the next year than there was the first year, I consider that a win. Because as long as the garden is growing in a positive direction, it's a win. That's my goal. All right, folks. Well, we're all set for today, and I'm happy to say the sun came out, because things are so much more positive now that we're making progress. But let me show you what we did for today, and we're pretty much all set. So my goal for today was basically just to get here and get something done, and also to clean out the sidewalk, because Halloween is coming in 2 days now. So we did get something done, and we did clean off the sidewalk, and we're just going to call it a day, and that's better than nothing. I made a pile of junk over here, and then I made another small pile over there. So when I have the dump truck, I can just throw that all in the back of the truck. But like I said, usually what I'll do is I'll come out and get started, and then I'll kind of work up a plan. So I can see now that I've basically got, you know, a section here, a section here, a section here, kind of to just the edge of the house, maybe including the moon, I think it's moon shadow euonymus, and then one section around the back. So when I start to do this, I'll break it down by section, so rather than looking for progress in the whole landscape, I can feel like I did something one section at a time, which I suspect I'll just work from left to right and work my way down. We'll talk about the thistle a little bit more next time we're here. But thistle's not the end of the world. Weeds aren't the end of the world. But it all comes down to how much time you want to put into them. And, you know, the more time you put into the garden, the better the results are going to be. It really is that simple. And then the final thing is just, there was one Olga. This would have been 3 Olgas. So I had one in the middle here I took out. But at some point I will have to come back. And this is Virginia Creeper. It's got 5 leaves. And if you look over here, it's got 5 leaves as well. So I can just pull that off the house. But you can never say too much. If you see a vine that looks very similar to this with leaves of 3, let it be. And even with Virginia Creeper, make sure you're wearing gloves, because some people still get an allergic reaction to that as well. So that's where we are. Let's head home.